Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and let me know when you can see it.
I can see
I can
it.
see it.
Awesome. Okay, well, hopefully you're here for the Groups and Lockers webinar. Are we all in the right place? I hope.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through what exactly we're going to do with our agenda today. First, crash course. Have either of you jumped in crash course at all in TCU Online?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay, so I'll show you in case you want to look back at the videos for how to do everything with groups and lockers that's available for you. And then I'm going to walk you through how exactly, like what features are available, enrollment types you can do with groups, what you can do with them. And then I'll also mention about lockers. And then I'm actually going to have you guys jump in and try it yourself if you want to get in. We all have access to the same shell. So, we'll get to go and play a little bit.
All right.
So, oops, I skipped over crash course. So let me hop over and show you. You said that you have been in crash course before. So within crash course, I believe it's in managing your course. There's a sub-module called groups, and there is a whole lot of information here for you. So at any time, you can go and hop back into this. And then a feature within your courses and all the courses that you may not realize, it's right here at the top. You can type groups to go and search for stuff, and it'll bring up only things that mention groups. So if you don't want to dig through and figure out that it's in managing, you can type groups and it'll bring up all the content that has to do with groups. So that's available to you at any time. The other thing I want to mention is after we meet, I am going to follow up with an email with links to a bunch of resources for you. So, links to more videos and documentation and some things that we have on our website that will be helpful for you. So, we'll just dig right in with groups. Before we get into it, though, I would, since we have such a small group, I'm curious to know how or if either of you have used groups in your courses before within the online platform, whether it's eCollege or our current one, TCU Online, and if you have hopes and dreams for how you might want to use it in this platform. I'll start with Brad.
Okay. I worked a lot of things out using doc sharing in the previous system.
Okay.
And so I realized sort of along the way that groups was going to be the way to get those same activities together. I tried to do a little bit of work with it over one of my summer classes and ran into some troubles with file size using groups and lockers. And so I stopped there realizing I needed to do more homework.
Okay. All
So
right.
I've just dipped a toe in the water, and that's about it.
Okay, cool. And Linda?
I've not used it, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure I know enough about it to know how I could use it, which is why I'm here.
Okay, super. Well, I thought I would just do a little fact finding first and see what your experience was, and we'll tailor it accordingly. So before I show you the enrollment types, in the platform in TCU Online, we have a group tool. And basically, this is a way to group your students in various ways. You can have them, a common reason people group them is for like group projects or perhaps for group discussions. If you have a large discussion, or I'm sorry, a large class, it's helpful to have smaller cohorts to have discussions. We also have a lot of faculty who in our previous platform use the journal tool, which we don't have in this platform. And so we have a way to do individual single user members of groups, which will allow you to have those individual places where people can post their reflections on whatever it may be. So it's a way to categorize people in some capacity. If you have multiple sections, like section 10 and 20, you have similar features that the group tool has where you can assign content, you can, have specific discussions to people or to different sections or groups. And so it's just kind of a way to share content or facilitate smaller discussions or sharing well, I'm kind of repeating myself, to get them to not just be a full class. So you can chop them up into smaller categories of people. So we have lots and lots of enrollment types that can happen in this platform besides just group 1, 2, and 3. So you have the ability to say, I want 5 groups and I want to designate who is in what group. So that's one option. The next option is to say, I want groups of 2, and the system will automatically go through your roster and choose, go through everybody and say, here's 2, here's 2, here's 2. You can have it similar to the first one. I want 5 groups, but you will have it auto enroll by the system. So it'll just go through your roster and, sort through everybody and put them in the 5 groups. You can also have groups of, I'll just use 2 again, and then self-enrollment. So you can have your students pair up on their own so they can choose their partner. You can also have number of groups and have, I want 4 or 5 groups, and then they can choose their group. That's an option. And then number of groups with a capacity of, 2 or 5 or whatever, self-enrollment. And then single user, this is what I was explaining for a journal type solution. So you can have where each person in the class has their own group so that they can post reflections or things like that, sort of like a journal tool. Any questions so far about the different types?
This may be obvious, but when you have it auto enroll into, say, 5 groups, and you have 23 people in your section, so it just continues to add to the different groups until it runs out of people. Is that correct?
Yeah,
So you just have
they will be
groups.
uneven. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll automatically distribute, and there's a checkbox you can check that I'll show you that will auto enroll new members. So if there's a new enrollee, they'll automatically pop in a group. But yeah, it will automatically, make it uneven if there's an uneven amount of people. But it'll toss them in. Any other questions? I think the self-enrollment is an interesting feature so that, especially if you are teaching Brad a face-to-face class like you do, they can choose, they may sit literally in the classroom and team up, and then you can have their workspace online where they join their groups there. Linda, I know you teach fully online, so I mean, you can have them pair up that way too, but it maybe just depends, more useful to have it auto enroll. Lots of options. So some basic features. Something that we didn't have in eCollege that we have in this new platform is that there can be one submission folder for a group. So if, for instance, the 3 of us were in a group and we worked together on a paper or presentation, we can designate one person to submit it. So Linda submits it for all of us, and the instructor can go and grade that once and push out our 95 to the whole group, and then say, oh, Carrie didn't do as much work, so let's bump her grade down to a 90. So you can manipulate those grades, but it's kind of beautiful that you can have the one specific grade pushed, and you don't have to search for who those group members are. As I mentioned earlier, there's the journal solution. With those single member groups, you can have a discussion where only the member of the group would see their own posts. You can do group chats. You can assign content to groups. You can communicate with groups, and you can view grades tool by group. Do you have any questions about that?
No.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. So let's actually jump in. So I have this course here, and you guys are actually enrolled as TA in this, but you can just take a look for now and watch me do it. Within the course, under the people navigation, is the groups tool. So the way this works, you start by creating a category. So we'll do new category. And for this, I'm just going to call it example. Oops. Of course, when people watch, I can't spell suddenly. Example project groups. You can add a description if you want. You don't have to, though. You can do enrollment types. For this one, I'm going to say number of groups, and I'm going to say 4. And you notice that I changed this from the one that had no auto enrollments because I want the system to do it for me. So I'm going to have 4 groups. You can add a prefix if you want it, to be GRP or project or whatever, but it's not necessary. Anytime you see advanced properties, always click it. Because it's great to see what else you can do. This is super valuable. Auto enroll new users. I would highly recommend that you check the box for that so that, as students add drop, especially that first couple of weeks, they add drop a lot for undergrad and face-to-face classes specifically, they'll automatically jump into a group. You can also randomize. Otherwise, I believe it will do it alpha, the order in the class list. So, it just depends on your preference. I think by default, it randomizes it. And then the next option is this additional options. This is where you can set up discussion areas, lockers, and assignment submission folders. I promise I will go into lockers more in depth in a few minutes, but for right now, I'm going to check all of them because I want you to see all of the options. So what this will do is we'll have example project groups, we'll have 4 groups, and they'll each have their own discussion area, their own locker, and their own place to submit an assignment like the Dropbox. So I'm going to click Save. And so since I had checked those boxes to do discussion and locker and assignment submission, it's going to force me to go ahead and create the discussion topic and the assignment submission folder information, which is great because we won't forget to do it. So create our restricted discussion area. It's restricted because we have it restricted to a group. So you would create your new forum. I'm going to call this group ideas. And we have 2 options here. So the first one is create 1 topic per group, which sounds great because you'd have 4 topics, but what it doesn't exactly say, it says down here really small, teachers must manage each topic individually. What that's actually saying between the lines is you have to create 4 separate items in the gradebook. And if you have multiple things, it's going to be a nightmare. So that's what it's really telling you. So I would recommend that you do this one, which works amazingly beautifully. So create 1 topic with threads separated by group. This says real small, teachers can manage all activity and assessments from 1 topic, and students only see threads from their own group. So what this really means is we have our forum called Group Ideas, and there will be 1 topic that's, we'll just keep it as this. It's whatever your discussion topic is. It could be week 1 discussion. It could be anything. And if you were in group 1 and Linda was in group 2, you would only see group 1 or group 2, whichever group you're in, when you post. As the instructor, I can filter by group 1, group 2, or all posts. So it's pretty beautiful. From a grading standpoint, you would have 1 item in the gradebook, but from a experiential standpoint, the student would only see their group, so they don't realize that it's separated out. So I would highly recommend that you use the second option. Any questions about that? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fairly new thing in the past couple of months, and it is really, really nice. So you would have your discussion topic. This is where I'm just going to write, pose your question. This is where you would pose your amazing question to your students and have them, whatever they need to respond to here. And then we just do create and next. So now it's forcing us to do our assignment submission folder. So this is where we create our Dropbox. So I'm going to just call this group. I'm going to do example so it's obvious. Example group project presentation. So we can automatically assign it to the gradebook here. And I had one totally misspelled, apparently, in the gradebook. They can get 100 points. I can add a rubric if I had it. And I can add instructions like submit your group presentation to this my XX on. Yeah. If I had any attached files or wanted to record information, I can do that here. Otherwise, these are basic assignment submission folder steps. You can at any time go to the actual activities assignment submission folder and modify these. So then we'll just click create. So what this did is it automatically created our 4 groups. We have 1 discussion forum and 1 topic created, split by all the groups, 4 lockers, and 1 submission folder created. So then we just click done. So this brings back our actual setup page, and you see again, here are all the things that were set up. So these are now existing workspaces. So I'm just going to click save, and it takes us back to our group page. So if I were to leave and come back and go to people groups, it would take us here. So Linda, this goes back to your question where, if we have an uneven amount of students, it just shuffles, it just picks randomly like, oh, this one needs 2 and this needs 3. But it's split by the 4 groups as we had asked it to do.
Okay.
So at any time, if I wanted to see, who's in group 1, I can go and see these 2 users are in that group. From this page as well, I can see there is a assignment submission folder, there's discussions, and there's locker group files. Any questions so far other than what the heck is a locker?
Yeah, remind me how you got to manage groups, how you got to this page.
Sure. So if I were to come into this class later and I go to people and then groups, it takes me here.
Okay.
So if I wanted to modify this, I can, this is our category, and I can go and edit that category and change it up. You see, I can't change how many groups there are because it's already been set up. But I can change if I wanted to auto-enroll or randomize users. So it does kind of lock it down once something's created. But if I wanted to say, I want to add somebody to this, I can enroll users into it. And I can say, gosh, I really want Amelia Earhart also in group 1. So I can shift them around. So if, for instance, you had some drops and, one group had 5 users and the other group had 2, and you wanted to shift somebody over, you can go and manually move them over. So that's an option for you.
And so what are the little icons there next to Marie?
The icon, sorry. If I go to that and do enroll, this means that they are enrolled in this specific group. So they're already in group 1, so that's why they have this little name tag thing. And if I were to check another student, it adds that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, so before I get into lockers, I just want to show you, remember I created the assignment submission folder. So if I wanted to go and see that, I would go to activities and assignments. And here's that folder. And you can see by this little icon that it's set up as a group submission folder. And I can go and view submissions, which there aren't any. But if I were to say unsubmitted groups and search, it would show me group 1 rather than your whole roster. I can see just the groups. And if I click on it, I can email those people. It has e-learning because I have a bunch of test students in this group.
Mm-hmm.
If I do evaluate, I believe this is where, let's see all group members. So I can go and see who the group members are. It kind of does a little blind grading. So you just see group 1, and then you'd have to click that to see who's in it. So as far as the discussion goes, that's set up as well. Remember, we had it set so that it was one discussion topic, so that we only have to have one thing in the grade book. So if I were to go and look at this, I can filter and see just group 1, just group 2, and what have you, or all groups. So as a student, they would also, let me go and actually impersonate a student. So if I were Susan B. Anthony and I go to groups, I'm in group 2. So if I go to my discussion and post, I can't see other groups here. I just go and post, and it says posting to group 2. So as far as she's concerned, there's no other students who can see this but group 2, or who, have the same discussion other than group 2. So she can post there. I'll just do So when I get out of Susan B. and just go back as myself and go to this discussion, I can see that there's a post to group 2, and I'm looking at all groups currently. But if I were to go group 1, there's nothing. Group 2, there's her post. So it sorts it pretty nicely. So I can easily go and assess that. Any questions about that part or the assignment part?
I do. I'm not sure if it's totally related to this part, but is this a good functionality for students who say are writing groups that are writing a paper together or doing a database project together? Is this a good tool to use?
Sure. For collaboration, you can have a discussion set up, and they can go and meet here. If you wanted to see their work, some students may want to just work offline and text each other or whatever else, work through email. But we have had plenty of other faculty who use this where they have to post their work here. You can also suggest that they work in like Google Drive so that they have a document and they share the link with you, so that you can see who's been revising and things like that. But a discussion really is helpful for obviously the typical discussion setup, but for group collaboration so that you can, see their progress and their thought process, and you could potentially chime in here and there and steer them in the right direction.
Can they post more than one document to be graded that
Um,
represents the whole group? So say there were 3 different things that they needed to post as a group. Can they?
yes. In the setup, I believe, in the setup for any assignment folder, you can set how many files are allowed for the submission folder. So by default, it's unlimited. But if you only wanted them to put 1, you can change that. So if they had to submit 3 things, absolutely, they could easily do that.
And that's clear to them how to do that?
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing the student view.
Sure. So I'll show you from a student view, and then I'll show you a tip so that how you can see what they can see. So if I am Susan B. Anthony and I was the person for my group to submit, um, they just come to the assignment folder, click Add File, and they can go to their hard drive, and we'll just grab this. And we'll grab another one. I don't know what that is. And so they can just add a couple things here. You notice that there's also the locker and the group locker, which I promise I'm going to talk about in just a moment. They can pull documents from there, and then just click add. So they easily can add more documents if they said, oh, I needed 3, and go back and add those. We'll just pop another one in. And then just click.
So,
Mhm.
So how would the grade book, 'cause if you had to say 3 documents, how would the grade book know which document belonged in which grading
Okay,
cube?
so I may need a little use case. So are you saying that for like a group project, they have three separate documents and you want to grade them totally separately? Or are you,
Or maybe it could be one that I grade, but two that they need to do. Like when I have students work in groups, there's a couple of tools that I use. Like the first one is they have to outline what the responsibility of each person in the group. They have to agree upon that, and that needs to
okay.
be in.
Okay. So in that case, you may want to have multiple assignment folders. Um, in my mind, I would think a good use of an assignment folder where it's multiple submissions is if they had to do a Word document and a PowerPoint presentation. You know, they needed to write something simple and do a PowerPoint and upload it. But if it's kind of a progression, like the beginning of the semester, they determine who's doing what and then they submit it. And then later they submit whatever their final project is. I would have those as separate assignment folders so
Okay.
that you can easily check it off early and then check it off later. And by check it off, I mean grade it as like a completion thing. So in that case, when you like say that, oh, you know, gosh, we wanted more than the presentation, we want to also create, um, you know, a new thing that's like group agreement or whatever. When you create this, once you have the groups existing in the platform, you now have the option to set this up as a group submission folder rather than individual. If it's individual, each person has to do it for the grade, but group, you choose your group category. So you would set this up as you want in the grade book and everything. And by setting that group submission folder, that would set it so that all three people in the group, for example, one person could submit and the grade could go to all three. Does that make sense?
It does. So in the grade book, what I see is group assignment. So I set
Yes.
that up. Okay.
Yes,
That's
exactly. So with that example I just did with Susan B. Anthony, um, if I can see she was Group B, Susan B. submitted it, and I can go and grade it. And oh, I keep clicking that to email them. I would click evaluate. And when this comes up, I can go and check out each of the documents. I'll spare you because these are just kind of junky things. And we'll say, oh, we'll pretend we actually looked at them. They get a 90. And let me just see who else was in this group. John Lennon and Pablo Picasso. Okay, cool. So if I submit this 90 here, it will pop it into the grade book. So I can publish that. And if I go to the actual grade book and see my misspelled presentation, I can look at this and say, gosh, you know, Pablo really did better work. I'm going to give him a 95. So I can go and like very easily adjust that in the grade book. So lots of options. I love that we can grade multiple students with one item.
yeah.
It's so nice. We missed that big time in the old platform. That was a big miss. So this is really, really nice. I believe also when you go to grade it here, I can't remember. I may have to look this up because I believe that there's another place to adjust this grade. Um, ah, here's where it is. Although it doesn't group them together. I thought that there was a way that I could see the three students all at once, but I guess it does kind of make it highlighted. So I may have to look into that to see if there's a way before you publish it to modify their grades if you wanted to adjust it like I did with Picasso. So that's that. Okay, any other questions with the assignments or the discussions?
Let me.
Okay, so the mysterious lockers. So, Brad, this is probably the information you were looking for this summer.
Mhm.
Lockers are very small. So if the three of us were in a group, we would have 5 meg available to us, which is just silly. It's very small. Um, as a group. Um, and then as an individual, each of you, including faculty accounts, have 100 meg available. So it's really kind of not amazingly useful as far as sharing a lot of things. I would actually recommend maybe having your students use their OneDrive with their Office 365 accounts, or
Sure.
use something like Google Drive and share it that way. And then, you know, you can export from any of those into Word or whatever document from there. But
Mhm.
basically, the way that it works is you can go to People and then Locker. And I have this one document in my locker. So it's pretty similar. This looks kind of like doc sharing, but it's truly my locker's just for me. If I go to upload files, you can go and, grab something here and save it, and there it is. I mean, it's just a place to host your files. Um, as a instructor in this class, I can see all of the groups. So I can see group 1, there's nothing. You can go and see how the groups are progressing, but remember, they only have a small amount of space. So
Right.
if it's a big PowerPoint presentation, it's just going to be too big. It's just not not a great
Mhm.
holding tank. As a student, let me impersonate Susan B again. She has her locker, so this is her individual. She has this Word doc, and then you'll see she only has group 2. So as an instructor, you could see all the groups, but as the student, you only see your specific group. Any questions about that?
No.
Um, I'll see if there's a way that we can pump up the size on the locker. From what I remember seeing, it's pretty limited, and it's kind of purposeful so that we don't have a ton of wasted storage, because we
Sure.
we have to pay for storage and things like that. So um, it's it's great in theory, but it's not a doc sharing solution for sure. I could see it being very useful if you didn't want to take a flash drive to class and you wanted to just pop a couple documents in here and open them up
Mhm.
in class. That could be great. Um, but the group is truly limited to a smaller amount.
If and I completely understand the storage limits. If it'd be possible to put in a notice to students, the problem I ran into is that students didn't know what their size limit was.
Mm,
They just got a rejection notice.
right,
So if there was a way to get the D2L people to tweak it a little bit, even with
right.
just the rejection message, and say, your file's too big,
Yeah.
then they know they can do the workaround. But knowing that 5 megabyte limit in advance is going to be really helpful.
Yeah, it's a sad amount. It's not a lot. Um, on the right side within your locker, you can see how much you have used. So, this in Susan B, she's used 11.2 KB out of
All
100.
right.
In group, it looks like it does show it there. So,
Okay.
um,
I can point them to that then.
yeah, point them that, and you get to that from people and down to locker.
Right.
So that could help. It just depends on what kind of file it is, but it's not as useful as we wish it could be, but
Mhm.
it is available as a feature.
Yeah, it's really nice to have the flexibility of the groups.
Yeah, for sure. So another thing, I want to say this before I go further. Linda, you had mentioned you aren't sure what exactly students see, like in an assignment submission folder. Um, at the top of your screen, under your name, you can change the view, and yours is slimmer than mine, but you can view as a student. And this will let you go to specific tools like the assignment tool and check out your course and see what it looks like. So that's available to you as professors in a class. So you can go and view, and to get out of it, you just click the little X. and it'll get you
Let me
back to your view. Mm-hmm.
let me ask this, because I've used that before, and in communicating with students, their view does not seem to be exactly the same as my view in student view. Is
Interesting.
that correct?
It should be, other than the quiz tool, because quizzes, it just doesn't let you fully impersonate, and see a student view. It should be the same. What you see here should be what they see. I guess actually a caveat to that is you can see all the groups because you still are professor in the class. So other than that, you should be able to have a similar, like very similar setup.
Yeah, this is, I haven't used groups, so it hasn't been in this
Hmm.
particular functionality, but it's the two areas where they say they can't see what I think, what I
Mm.
see as a student is it comes down to their grades as well as within uh, quizzes. I put the answers and then I put the rationale, and sometimes they can't see it in the
Uh,
location that I see it in.
Okay, then I know exactly what you're talking about, and I will send you a follow up with information on that because seeing things as a student in the grade book, you can preview that as a professor, but I don't want to take our time right now to go through that. And then quizzes, I'll also follow up with info on that. And I'll send
Oh,
that to
that'd be
both of
great.
you so that you're both in the loop about it. It's yeah, it's submission views. It's kind of a weird thing in the quiz tool, but I will follow up with both of you about that. So,
Thanks.
yeah, sure. Okay, so we have walked through creating it and lockers and all of that. Would you guys like to try it? You want to take a look and try it?
Sure.
If not, you don't have to. I thought you could. So if you could log in, if you're not already there, log into d2l.tcu.edu. And from your homepage, if you may be able to see it, depends on what you're sorting as. But in the 2017-2018 Kaler Center workshops, there's a course called Groups and Lockers Webinar Training. If you don't see it, I would recommend up here in the mini bar just typing groups, and it should come up in the list. And let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
I'm there.
Awesome. Okay, so you guys are both TA in this course, so you can do basically what I did in the class. So let's walk through together. You're going to go to People and then Groups, and you're going to click New Category. And just to keep it straight, if you guys could put your name before it, so like I'm going to do Carrie Projects. If you want to type Brad Projects or whatever, you can call it whatever you want, but I would put your name in it so we keep it straight. Leave the description blank unless you want to add a description. Nobody will really see it. And we're going to set the enrollment type. We're going to do the same one I had done earlier. Number of groups. And you can choose whatever number. I'm going to do 4 again. Actually, I'm going to do 3. I'm going to get crazy here. And then if you don't see advanced properties, go ahead and click show so that you can see it. We want to check the box to auto-enroll new users and randomize users in groups. And then check the box for all 3 of the additional options to create discussion area, lockers, and assignment submission folders. And when you have that, click Save. And if you have questions along the way, just shout. So in your forum, we'll create a new forum instead of using the one that was there. Just click New Forum and title it with your name and then group discussion.
Hold on just a second.
Sure.
I've got a clock that's going round and round.
Oh no.
And I don't, oh, I do see new forum. Okay, so I can click on that. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
good.
it's okay. It looks like your internet may have hung up for a second. So just title your forum with your name and then group discussion. There's really no rules in this, so just set that up. And
Okay.
you remember which one we should choose? New topic, create one topic per group or one topic with threads?
Mine auto-populates the second one, which is the one you said to choose.
Awesome. Yes, yes. So that is amazing that it defaults as that. So we want to do that because, do you guys remember why?
Otherwise, you have to do it multiple times, right?
Yes, in the grade book, and that you don't want, just trust me on that.
I just remember the pain and suffering. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
I
Didn't remember why.
just trust me, I've been there. You don't want it. So the title that's below would be your your discussion topic. It's fine to leave it as the default, but feel free to change it. In the description, just so that we remember, yeah, you just type something like your question to students goes here. Obviously, you would write something more profound, but that's where your question goes. And just before we click create and next, I want to point out that if you knew that you wanted multiple discussions, you can click add another and then create another discussion topic. In this example, we're just going to click create and next though. So it should bring you to a page to create assignment submission folders. This is for your group. So we want to title this like I'm going to put my name and then group presentation. And I just cannot spell that word today. And we can go ahead and pop it into the gradebook by clicking, we don't have to put in a category, but we'll add a grade item. And again, I'm going to add my name and call it Carrie Group Presentation. And we're just doing our names because there's multiple of us in here. I'm going to make it 100 points possible. And I'm not going to set any other preferences on the grade item. Just click save. And in that out of, again, I want to put 100 points possible. And in instructions, just for good practice, we'll put submit your assignment by midnight on XX date. Or something like that. And Linda, just to point out that submission options at the bottom show submission options. That's where if you wanted to only let them do one submission file, otherwise it defaults as unlimited. So you have options there.
Okay.
So once you have those set, you can click create and it'll give you a summary. Let me know when you get to this page.
Okay, I got a pop-up message. I must not have done something. It said when a submission folder is associated with a grade item, out of score is required.
Oh, somewhere on the page, do you see out of? It needs a 100 or something. Can you pop?
Oh, so yeah, the same grade. I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, it really gets cranky about it.
Well, it's probably a good feature,
Yeah,
actually. But
it is. Brad, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Awesome. Are you guys both to the summary page?
yes.
Okay, super. Just click done. And then it brings you back to your category and you can scroll to the bottom and click save. And I'm going to refresh my screen to see, oh, actually. Okay, so I created Carrie projects. I had 3 groups. I have my assignment submission, discussion, and groups. I'm going to go look at Brad's. So you have 7 groups. Very cool. Folders, discussion, lockers. And Linda, you have 3 groups and you guys got it all right. So that's awesome. So let's go check it out and see in the assignment tool. Go to activities at the top and go to assignments. And so we see a bunch of things here. Carrie group, Brad, and Linda group presentations. So we can see each of the little icons that have the little people. That shows that it is with a group. You can select your own and do, if you just click on the link. And if you want to change the little show search options and change submissions to unsubmitted groups, and click the search, it'll show up all of your groups, which is pretty cool. So that's good. We can hop over to activities and then discussions and see all of our lovely discussions here. So each one should say group section restrictions. That means that only the specific groups are set up to see things. So that's great.
Carrie, can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
So when I use this tool, when I set it up, I would have different colors. So where it says example project groups is the first group. The second one is Carrie projects group. Those would be different colors when I set it up. And why I do that is it makes it easy for me to jump. Like when I open this up, I can go real easy to, because I usually have a longer list.
Right.
Is there a way to do? I guess I could just go into that, like go down to the drop down menu next to Carrie and then edit.
Yeah, you can edit the forum, and you can actually like add a little table. Text here, oops. And I believe in the table properties, you should be able to add a background color and like make it yellow or something. And when you save it, now you can, is that kind of what you meant?
Yeah, I actually just do the title, but I like what you just did.
Oh,
That's
okay.
really good.
Yeah. So I did that really fast, but basically you just go in and add a little table. Oops. And then once you have your little table, you drag it, and the little arrow next to it, you do table properties, and it'll let you add that background color. So it's pretty easy. But that is a way to have a little visual appeal to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So good. So, trying to think. Oh, the next thing that I wanted to show you. Any questions about that before I show you one other thing?
No.
Pretty easy. All right. So I have in here a specific, just a random module, and there's content here. At any time, excuse me, I muted my cough. Sorry. Whew. Within the module or the content, you can restrict it. So let's see. I gotta mute myself again. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you can create release conditions and only show this module to a specific group by, let me get out of this. If you go to the module and then click add dates and restrictions, and then click create for release conditions, and the condition type would be class list group enrollment, and then you select your group. So for instance, if I only wanted group 1 in my project to see this, I select carry project and then group 1 and click create. So then I would click update. So a use case would be if you had case studies and you wanted each group to see a different, different story. You can put it in a module and do that. So only group 1 in carry project would see the specific module. So if I didn't want it on the specific module, I can remove that and just do it for the content item, that topic. So I can do it by either editing the HTML or edit properties in place, which will give me that same thing here. Let me go to the topic though. If I'm in the topic at the very bottom, I have that same area, add dates and restrictions. So you would create condition type, you scroll through and find group enrollment. And also note, there's also section enrollment. So if you had section 10 and 20 in a class and you only wanted section 10 to see it, you can do that. And then you just choose your group. So I'm going to do, group 1 in Brad's. So only that group would see it after I click update. Any questions about that? Does that make sense?
That's very useful. I can already see
Yeah.
some ways to
Yeah.
make that.
Yeah. And while I'm in here, just to point out that there are ways for various other things. If they
Yeah.
have submitted, if they earned a certain grade or if they submitted to a specific assignment folder, they can see XYZ, content item or thing in the
Mhm.
class. So it's pretty useful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions about groups and lockers and how to create it or anything?
Yeah. It's very helpful.
I want to show you one more thing. This is kind of an outside the box thing, but we had a solution that we had to find for Doctor of Nursing practice for this could be applied for like student teaching hours or specific things that students need to submit periodically throughout a semester or a year or things like that. We wound up setting up a discussion using the individual hour tracking, or I'm sorry, single member group. So in this example, we did a group and it was set up as single member group. So you see each of our students have their own group and they have a discussion. So when we go to the discussion, they have to download a form and then submit it to the actual discussion. So they'll say, I completed X hours for this event that I did. And, you see, we have a whole bunch of submissions. So when you set up when you set up your discussions, you actually have the ability to grade each individual post rather than did they post at all. So when we go to grade this, and I look at, say, Mary here, Marie, I can see each of her submissions and I can grade each specific post to that discussion. So it will sum each of my post scores here up above. So you have that ability. This is kind of an example of a journal type tool or, an outside the box thing like this. So you can look at the submission. Now, in this case, they're submitting documents and posting information to us. And I could say, oh, you get your 4 hours, you get 1 hour, which equates to points. So each post gets its own score and then it has a sum. So it's kind of interesting. This could be done for a journal specifically where they have to post every week or, whatever fill in the blank scenario. And you
Mhm.
can grade each separate thing. So it's kind of interesting. Different way to do it.
Mhm.
Having that single member group is kind of nice so that if you did use a journal tool previously, this is kind of your solution. So I wanted to make sure you guys saw that.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, if you don't have any other questions, that was my song and dance for today. Um,
That
I'm
was very helpful.
good.
Yes, thank
Good.
you.
I'm going to follow up with an email with a bunch of links to some resources. And off topic, I will follow up with previewing student grades and then setting up submission views and how students see it. And I think that'll help as well for both of you. It's good to know either way.
Mm.
Awesome.
Well, thank you,
Okay.
Carrie. Appreciate it.
Sure, sure. And if you need anything, just shout. We're here. We're busy, but we're here.
Oh,
I bet
yeah.
you are. Thanks, Carrie.
All right. Have a great day.
You all too. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye bye.